Well, Nigeria just started the journey into her 66th year today. And today we examine the Akwa Ibom's imprint on the federation, which many believe cannot be ignored. Of course, the sheer fact of supplying a major share of the nation's crude oil has placed the state as both a pillar and a voice in Nigeria's journey. But beyond resources, what has been Akwa Ibom's true legacy? Looking at the 65 years journey of independence. ASA to the Akwa Ibom State Governor and electronic media, Mr. Samuel Ayara, joins us live on the program. Thank you very much for coming.
Many thanks, Sylvia. Good to have you. Oh, yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure coming around. Yeah.
Indeed. And let's first start by knowing your thoughts, your idea on Akwa Ibom's contribution to the national reserve, the national resources in every sphere.
Yeah, so we'll be beginning. Let's talk about existence. Let's talk about the existential value as a state in the Nigerian nation, and then condense it into all of what the resources have been able to add to national growth. You would understand Akwa Ibom State as a state came 50 years after the initial agitation for state creation by EPP Union in 1948. And that was the first of such calls. That was the first of such advocacies on the Nigerian nation anywhere on the Nigerian nation. Akwa Ibom State was the first. F3BP Union were the first people that actually came together to agitate for state creation. So we incidentally had a state created in honor and respect of that agitation about 50 years after it actually started. So it means from the word go, Akwa Ibom State has always been an intrinsic part of what has evolved into Nigeria. 65 years after, we're seeing a state that has contributed in no small measures to the national development. We've seen a state whose wealth, whose natural resources wealth has become more of a springboard for the Nigerian nation. We've continued to hear people talk about Nigeria without oil, Nigeria beyond oil. But in discussing Nigeria with oil, in discussing the oil component of Nigeria, you can't take away Akwa Ibom State, which has contributed the highest to the nation's oil wealth as it is now. We wouldn't even have come to this level of discussing Nigeria's oil wealth if there was no state on the continent like Akwa Ibom State. You would recall that between 2000 and 2005, it was a man from Akwa Ibom State, then governor of Akwa Ibom State, Architect Obao Victor Atta, who championed the cause and fight for the abrogation of the onshore-offshore dichotomy, resource control, and what have you. And it was that fight, that advocacy, became quite definitive for the future of Nigeria. And Nigeria at 65 years as a sovereign nation, but a sovereign nation that has greatly enjoyed the support the support of subnationals. A subnational like Akwa Ibom State, where for years on ending we've continued to sustain our ranking as the nation's highest oil producer. Not because we have all of the oil wealth here, but because we have what it takes to energize production. We have the peace, we have the security, we have communities that are developmental oriented. We have societies that understand that we can always at some point bend backwards for the Nigerian nation to thrive. So it's safe to say, yes, Nigeria is 65 years. In all of its 65 years, there is so much a subnational that Akwa Ibom State has contributed to ensuring Nigeria stays together. So in celebrating Nigeria at 65, it is also good and interesting to celebrate the peace, the security, the comeliness, the serenity Akwa Ibom has availed the nation's economic space, to the extent that we've continued to have increase. We've continued to witness increase in oil production from what used to be quite some staggering figure. It's like we are gradually evolving to a future where Nigeria almost understands that yes, even if the rest of the country shuts down, from Akwa Ibom State, we can always have these resources to run the country. So we have a country that is completely committed to understanding, yes, there is an oasis in all of those crises where we completely can commit our future to, and that is Akwa Ibom State. So for us, it is a good time to join Nigerians in celebrating, and again, another good opportunity to remind them that this country that has celebrated 65 years of independence probably has been able to hold on because a subnational like Akwa Ibom State has been quite supportive.
All right, Ms. Ayara, I'll still take you. You mentioned EBBO Union, and you cannot underestimate their contribution when it comes to the state that we now have as Akwa Ibom State. Now, when you look at that contribution, how significant is it, especially knowing fully well that we now have a state called Akwa Ibom? And if they were not in the picture, would we now be celebrating Akwa Ibom as the hugest oil producer, which contributes significantly to the gross domestic product of Nigeria as we now know it?
Well, if EBBO Union had not come in the picture, Xavier, you quite would believe that we probably would have also had a Nigerian nation that is way laid back. So that would have been so backward. Look at it let's paint a picture here. That's a union that was interested in the future of Nigerians to the extent of sponsoring EBBO children to study abroad. Quite a number of those people were bonded to the EBBO union system, and they were committed to ensuring they returned to the shores of Nigeria to help develop motherland.
Invest in the country.
And then, so we had all of this huge investments coming from them. And then that's where you begin to hear the likes of, that's where you begin to have the likes of the late Baisudodia Atta, father to former Governor Victor Atta, who became Nigeria's first graduate of agriculture. So it shows that these were people that were futuristic, ambitious, and quite sacrificial. They saw the future, they conceived the future, and never allowed a moment slide without putting works into action, putting works into words.
A follow-up question immediately. Yeah. When you look at the current constitution now of the crop of leaders that we have, would you say that we still have those crop of leaders that we're not docile and we're not, shying away from confronting, the issues that we're supposed to suppress that?
Well, Xavier, times change, but again, patriotism doesn't. Patriotism, like class, is permanent, and patriotism lives here. We have so many of those people who are committed to ensuring we sustain our acclaim as a place Nigeria can never look away from. In the present day Akwa Ibom State, you just don't want to discuss Nigeria. You don't want to discuss the evolution of leadership, the evolution of economics. You don't want to talk about development in Nigeria without referencing the fact that in this country, there was a governor between 2007 and 2015 who revolutionized development, infrastructural development. Then Governor Godswill Akpabio, now Senate President of the 10th Senate. When he got in the saddle, he said he was going to approach development with anger. And in 8 years, we saw how much we could turn, how much a hitherto pedestrian state could become a destination of choice. We saw how much it was able to bring people together, how much it was able to bring Nigerians to the state. And closely succeeding him was Mr. Dom Emmanuel, who also did his bid and sustained the Destination Akwa Ibom narrative. And then tying it all up, and then more like the icing on the cake, is Governor Romano, who is sustaining the drive of maintaining Akwa Ibom as Nigeria's most preferred destination. And how is he able to do this? Deepening development, expanding reach for security operations, and then ensuring that citizens are empowered. It would be the first time we're seeing a governor come together to say, look, citizens, come, let's see, let's look at how much we can influence your control and influence, how much we can scale up your influence in the market space. We're getting to see a governor who's committed to empowering citizens. We're getting to see a governor who's committed to ensuring the citizenry is positioned to having the best of what they can offer per time. And then what's more, so at a time like this, when we are expanding our already growing army of entrepreneurs, at a time like this when development is finding its ways to hitherto unreached communities, at a time like this when Akwa Ibom has been able to find its place on Nigeria's leadership table through in the person of distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, who serves Nigeria as the president of the 10th Senate, you can just understand that yes, we had the BBO Union of the time, and then the spirit and the patriotism that drove men of old isn't in any way missing in what could pass for present-day Akwa Ibom State. After all, let me take you back. While then Governor Victor Atta had a father who was a beneficiary of BBO Union, who was sent abroad on that scholarship. His immediate successor, Senator Godswill Akpabio, also had an uncle who was also a beneficiary of the BBO Union scholarship abroad. So it's like whatever became of these beneficiaries found its way into the leadership evolution of the state. And then if we also have if we have certain gene as dominant and recessive, I can sure tell you that patriotism is dominant in the bloodline of these people, and then we have seen it roundly and sufficiently reflect our everyday yearning and rising.
Well, you've outlined enormous contributions of the state, but then it's often argued that even with all of these contributions, the citizens and residents have not really enjoyed so much of developmental strides as much as the contributions they have made. Do you share in that opinion?
Definitely. Times there were. I still take us back to the pre-2007 era when then President Obasanjo visited Akwa Ibom State. And one of the requests then Governor Victor Atta made was, please, let's create more space for Akwa Ibom people in the center. We're not having enough federal presence. We're not having our people in the federal service. We're not taking up our quota in the military and all of that. And then when Obasanjo was to respond to that, he said, oh, Governor Atta, please stand up. He stood up and then asked, please turn your back. Who do you see behind you? Governor Atta said a police officer, and he said that was enough federal presence. That was because at that time they felt Akwa Ibom was just a pedestrian space, was a space was a place that couldn't find a space, was a climb that couldn't find a space on the table of national conversation. So Akwa Ibom was just going to be the number. Akwa Ibom was just going to be the number. So we had lost so much over the years, years of military insurrections. Recall that immediately after the Civil War, if you've read much about it, you've realized that as much as we had the impact of that war on our communities, there was almost nothing done to remediate that heartfelt impact in any of those communities. After the war, we saw the rebuilding, we saw the reconstructions, we saw all of what was intended by the then Nigerian government towards reconciliation. But very little or nothing came to this path. And then that marginalization found its root from then, dovetailed into the several years of military insurrection when we could barely even have our people have a say in how and who led them at a time. But thanks to democracy, from 1999 to date, we can truly say that, yes, we met ourselves at a point where we felt we could have done better. But gradually, we're picking up the pieces, and then we are reinventing the wheel. Today, you would hardly walk by a space that there is no Akwa Ibom presence in premature. You would hardly come by a space that there is no contribution of an Akwa Ibom person. We are beginning to see our people find their ways to the boardrooms. We're beginning to see our people there endeavors that were hitherto exclusive prisons of other people in other parts of the country. And then I trust that in no distant time, now that we are beginning to level up, a time will come when we would have almost forgotten that in times past where we are used to be a honest prayer point.
But then do you think the at the national government at the national is recognizing these contributions made by the state's government?
Well,
because I mean, the follow up, because some still argue that Akwa Ibom State has contributed more to the center than it is giving. You also share in that.
Beyond even contributing more to the center than it is giving, yes, you first contribute before you're given. We understand we probably may not get enough at the moment, but nothing in any way suggests to me that in future we won't get our due. But beyond that, let's still stay on Akwa Ibom and what the state has contributed to the Nigerian space. You would understand with me that away from the piece I talked about that has enhanced, elevated production of crude, and then through which the Nigerian government has been able to find more monies in its pocket. It is Akwa Ibom State that has also been able to show Nigeria as a nation that certain things hitherto thought impossible could be possible. After all, yeah, when the passion is right, nothing is impossible. You see white and orange colors fly in Nigeria's green skies, and then you understand of Nigeria's 36 states plus the FCT, this is the only state that could dare that stride at that time. This is the only state that could dare it at that time, and we've stayed on it. We've sustained that flight year in, year out. Ibom Air continues to rake in all of the awards in aviation, and then you just would understand that if a state has been able to reposition a national situation, what was seemingly a bad national situation, in the magnitude it is, then in Akwa Ibom lies a lot of other solutions that Nigeria can safely walk into. We've gotten security right, we've gotten it right in aviation. We are repositioning healthcare through the primary healthcare system. Recall that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he came in, had promised that his administration was going to restructure about 1,000 primary health centers across the country. That emphasizes that in its work was a necessary emphasis that that needed to remind us of the priority place the primary healthcare system should have. And so we've seen an administration that is committed to turning around all of that model through the ongoing construction of model primary healthcare centers. And then I would recall during the inauguration of the primary healthcare center in Uyo on Barracks Road, when the Nigerian Minister of Health, Professor Ali Pate, openly declared that, look, he's been around long enough, but that day was going to be his one of his happiest days as a public servant. Guess why? He said it was the most ambitious and robust move by any government in Nigeria at repositioning the healthcare sector. Recall it was it was same day that he earlier in the day had inaugurated the oxygen plant, inaugurated that primary healthcare center, and of course the emergency and ambulance services operations. So therefore, Ali Pate would say, look, I have never seen any government in Nigeria dare this feat in a long while. So today is my happiest day. And then so you look at a government that is gradually trying to reinvent the wheels in virtually all of the areas where people used to think were no-go areas. We're seeing an administration that is even reinventing its maritime glory, returning to Oron to rebuild the maritime ecosystem, the jetties and all of that. We're seeing an administration that understands, look, yes, there's so much we can do, but we have to begin from somewhere. And then beginning from where it it has. At the moment, we are counting a total of 772 kilometers of roads in just 2 years, 4 months. There's so much Akwa Ibom is adding to Nigeria. When you look at infrastructure, Xavier, I dare that there is no state of this federation except Abuja, Lagos, yeah, except Abuja, Lagos, that you would get to find the kind of a carefully interconnected road access that we have in this state.
You don't think Rivers is also supposed to be on that list?
Oh yeah, Rivers, good. Yeah, okay. So from 36 states plus the FCD 37, you can just count out 3, and then so you just would understand that the state is contributing so much. You now look at what we are doing at the moment in how Akwa Ibom State is encouraging the investment climate, the Nigerian investment climate. There's not so much a people would achieve if the SMEs, if the small, medium scale entrepreneurs are not properly positioned. And Akwa Ibom State in the last 2 years, 4 months under Governor Moeno has been sustained its full blast at ensuring that entrepreneurs are transited. Small scale entrepreneurs are transited into medium scales, and then we're beginning to see a sustenance of these transitions. And gradually, truth is, all of this in the long run adds up to the macroeconomic, to enhancing the macroeconomic indices in the country. And we are seeing at the moment Nigeria at 65. Yes, it's so much isn't where the people would have thought the country should be. But again, we're seeing the numbers begin to look bright. We're beginning to see like it looks like morning is close. It looks like so much is happening in the right direction. And then Akwa Ibom, in all of this aggregation, is contributing nothing less than a subnational should. We have seen, okay, yeah, that should be what Akwa Ibom looks like. I almost would have mistaken that what you have on your screen there for the Arise Resort. Then so you also see a state that is reinventing tourism in Nigeria. You see a state that is just all about getting everything right. You also see a state that is preparing for Nigeria beyond oil. Well, Nigeria beyond oil is a conversation other people still have on the boardroom tables. Akwa Ibom has moved away from the boardroom tables and is pushing this conversation to the farm.
So you think it's going to be a reality, even when Nigeria moves beyond oil? Akwa Ibom will still be at the center, top front.
We're seeing what is happening, the revolution that's going on at Ibom Model Farm, and plans by government to replicate that farm across all of the state's 31 local government areas. We're seeing the elevated consciousness of Akwa Ibom people at returning to the farm. We're seeing people get to understand that, yes, you could be very rich, you could belong to the highest socioeconomic class, but you just must own a farm. And then so we're getting to see an Akwa Ibom society that is remodeling a prototype of what the Nigerian nation at 65 should pattern after.
As much as I know you sing Akwa Ibom's praises, but are there still those untapped areas that you think Akwa Ibom can work on to still keep increasing contributions?
Oh yeah, I would have talked about how the management of our gas resources. Yeah, I would have talked about management of our gas resources, but that would have had long ceased to be an issue with the appointment of Obawemem Ekperikbe as Nigeria's Minister of State Petroleum Gas. Well, yeah, we've seen how he's been able to aggregate all of the policies in that sector to the advantage of the state, not foreclosing the fact that every other state of coordinate gas advantage are also getting the touch. We're getting to see gas infrastructures here and there. We are getting to see Akwa Ibom people begin to connect. Yeah, Governor Moeno, when he came on, said he came to connect the dots. And then I'm seeing that where we used to see government not want to touch is gradually getting the touch it deserves. And then we for far too long continued to talk about our quest for Ibom Deep Sea Port. And it feels at some point we talk about it in political terms, but in this current era, we have also seen the genuine interest and concerns of our leaders, beginning with the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, all the way down to Governor Umono. It looks like it would be the first time Akwa Ibom leaders across every sphere of leadership are finding this consensus that yes, we need to work towards this realization. How is this a thing I'd love to say here? Because it is the first time in all of this agitation that you are beginning, that we have seen an administration that has actually built a road that has shown that has shown the temperance that has shown Nigeria the temperance that yes, Akwa Ibom really needs this the seaport through the road, the Unyenge road that Governor Umono is currently building. Because before now, you just would have to fly the skylines, you just would have to fly around the designated port area to show a proposed investors, oh, that is Ibom Deep Seaport, that is where it's supposed to be, and all of that. But with Governor Umono, there is a road that leads there, and then investors can begin to drive on land to access what advantage this very investment holds for Akwa Ibom. So we look forward to having the president in no distant time give the state the required support and the required support to actually see that project come to light of day.
Because I mean, part of the points that the governor raised, Pastor Umono, regarding his move from the PDP to the APC was also as a bargaining chip for the people to see to it that it is important that he makes this move, was the Ibom Deep Seaport. Do you think that it is possible that that goal can be realized before long?
Well, it's not in the governor's, it's not in his hands to, if it were, you trust that Governor Umono, being the hands-on leader he has been in the last 2 years, 4 months, would probably have had so much go on there. But again, the movement was predicated on a lot of factors. Yeah, that movement was predicated on a lot of factors, but chief amongst it was his respect for Nigeria's Senate President, and then his appreciation for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, in the governor's words, it's going to be difficult for him to stay in Party A, and while the Senate President stays in Party B. That's a man who's committed to reinventing the wheel. We would recall that the last time we had the experience of now, the last time we came any close to having a Senate President from this part of the country was in 1979, when we had then Senator Joe Ayara, and then for all of the 4 years, the fight and the central couldn't just hold, because there was this battle of supremacy between Senator Joe Ayara and then Governor of State Clement.
History was not supposed to repeat itself in Akwa Ibom.
So Umono was committed to ensuring that episode doesn't find repetition under his watch. So he was not going to sit back in his party, throw tantrums, instead of get on the larger table, profess solutions to national issues. So how does he do that? Get in with the president, in appreciation of what he has done. Recall that this is a governor who, long before his defection, was never low in appreciation to the president of the Federal Republic. He continually and he kept applauding the president's economic policies and reforms, which according to him were such that has made possible that the numbers, the figures were beginning to look bright and up. So for Governor Umono, he was not going to be he was not going to be an impressed outsider. He would rather get in and then stay impressed than stay out and be clapping for the park.
No.
And then so with the Ibom Deep Seaport must have been an item on that agenda as well, must have been an item on that table. But for a governor who isn't just restricted to saying, oh, I want Ibom Deep Seaport, the governor has been able to prove to Nigerians that yes, Akwa Ibom with the longest coastline of 129 kilometers, Akwa Ibom with a depth with a littoral depth that requires no dredging, should naturally have a deep sea port. And then so for Governor Mweno, he has done his own, and this marriage between the governor and the Senate president that has made peace a currency in the state must definitely, to my expectation, and of course the expectation of the rest of Akwa Ibom people and Nigerians, must necessarily find the nod of President Tinubu's administration when it comes to Ibom Deep Sea Port, because we have everything. There's political affinity, there is peace, and then that any investment in that line towards that direction would be preserved and roundly secured.
Nigeria at 65 is not one that has been without some challenges, and especially when it comes to security matters. Do you think in somewhat way, Akwa Ibom has also contributed to the security challenges of the state, of the country?
Well, for a state that is listed as one of Nigeria's safest, I think Nigeria should begin to learn what model is working in Akwa Ibom State. Akwa Ibom hasn't contributed in any way to the Nigerian insecurity situation. Of course, if it did, you probably would have seen lots of ungovernable spaces in Akwa Ibom State. 129 kilometers of coastline is no mean feat. Policing that stretch can give lots and lots of headache in its work, but being able to police all of that and still sustain the peace so far means that maybe there's something Nigeria isn't doing right. There's something Nigeria should come and learn from Akwa Ibom State. But that's not to say that Nigeria as a nation isn't making any tangible success in fighting insecurity. You would realize that in the last 2 years, 4 months of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, we are getting to hear and see. So we're beginning to see improvements in the security architecture of the country. We're beginning to see hitherto ungovernable spaces. We're beginning to see the Nigerian government take back hitherto ungovernable spaces. We're beginning to see a federal government that is committed to energizing subnationals and other components to ensure they have funds to fight insecurity. It looks to me like when you fund the states, when you fund the local government areas, as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has through the local government, through the approval, through award of local government autonomy, it means that when there is monies in the hands of these leaders, they can actually procure what is required to keep their communities safe and secure.
So, Ayara, we have to go, but I'd not let you leave without making some comments regarding the social, cultural contributions of Akwa Ibom State to the space called Nigeria. I mean, you talk about the cuisine, you talk about the hospitality that Akwa Ibom people are known for. In just 30 seconds, have we been able to export this very important aspect of Akwa Ibom State to the country and even the rest of the world?
Yes, across the country, there is hardly any part of Nigeria you would walk into and not be able to find someone who can make afang soup, who can make edikaneko, who can make our basic cuisines like ekpankukwa and all of that. And then you get to see people come around and they're excited. People come to the state, they're excited, they want to have a bite of this. We've seen our culture evolve into one that is gathering that's gaining the plaudits of the Nigerian nation. We've seen our attires exported to other climes. We've seen our cultures begin to intermingle with cultures, age-long cultures of other parts of the country. So yes, Akwa Ibom's culture has evolved, but it is not a standalone culture. It is evolving into the larger Nigerian picture. And in no distant time, the more we keep pushing it, we'll also get to see it even out with the rest of the cultures of the nation.
Thank you very much, SH, Akwa Ibom State Governor on Electronic Media, Mr. Samuel Ayara, for speaking to us. Coincidentally, Akwa Ibom celebrated its 38 years, and now Nigeria is 65. And we're hoping for greener days for both the state, the Niger Delta region, and the country at large. Thank you.
Well, we look forward to that. We'll trust that these days are no less green.
Oh, thank you for coming on Niger Delta Today.
The pleasure is mine.
Well, that's the size of the program. My name is Xavier Robert, wishing you a terrific afternoon. Catch you again tomorrow.
And I am Jennifer Pius. Thanks for being a part of the show. Do have a great day.